Hello, I'm Shazel Muhammad, founder of African Link Initiative, and this is your Right to Fight military moment. In April of 1775, the American Revolution began with gunfire at Lexington and Concord in Massachusetts. Ordinary farmers, tradesmen, and townspeople rushed to defend their homes against British troops. These men became known as the Minutemen because they could be ready to fight at a minute's notice. What is often left out of the story is that black men were there too. From the very beginning of the Revolution, free black men, and in some cases enslaved men, stood in the ranks beside white colonists. They carried muskets, loaded powder, and faced British fire just like everyone else. They fought not only for their towns, but for an idea, freedom, and the abolition of slavery in this new country. But that promise did not always include them. Just 1 month later, in May of 1775, the Committee of Safety of the Massachusetts Legislature passed a resolution that changed everything. It stated that, I quote, "No slaves be admitted into this army upon any consideration whatsoever," end quote. That decision effectively barred future participation by men of color in Massachusetts military units. The message was clear. Black men could fight at Lexington and Concord, but would not be welcomed afterward. This decision exposed a deep contradiction in the heart of the Revolution. The colonies were demanding liberty from British rule, yet denying freedom and equal service to many who were willing to fight for that cause. Massachusetts was not the whole story. Other colonies faced a serious problem as the war dragged on. Quality soldiers were tough to come by. Enlistments were short. Casualties were high. And the British were the ones offering freedom to enslaved people who escaped and joined their forces. The Continental Army had to make a choice. That choice came into focus in Rhode Island. In July of 1778, Rhode Island authorized the formation of what would become the 1st Rhode Island Regiment, the first all-black military unit in American history, though it also included Native Americans. The regiment was led by white officers, but the enlisted ranks were made up largely of black men, many of them formerly enslaved. In exchange for their service, these men were promised something powerful: their freedom. They trained, drilled, and prepared for battle, not as laborers, not as servants, but as soldiers of the Continental Army. Their defining moment came on August 29, 1778, during the Battle of Rhode Island. British forces, reinforced by Hessian mercenaries and supported by the Royal Navy, launched repeated attacks against American positions. As the battle turned against the colonials, the Continental Army began a difficult retreat toward the mainland. But someone had to stay put and hold the line. That responsibility fell to the 1st Rhode Island Regiment. For 4 brutal hours, these black and Native American soldiers stood their ground against repeated British and Hessian assaults. They held firmly under artillery fire, musket volleys, and bayonet charges. They did not break. Their stand prevented the British from surrounding the American army. Because of their courage, thousands of Continental soldiers escaped, avoiding destruction or capture or death. The 1st Rhode Island Regiment did exactly what soldiers are asked to do. They protected their fellow troops at extraordinary risk to themselves. Their performance shocked British commanders and silenced doubters within the American ranks. They had proven something undeniable. Black soldiers could not only fight the British, they could win. After the war ended, many monuments were raised to remember key victories and generals. In Portsmouth, Rhode Island, a monument was eventually erected to honor the courage of the 1st Rhode Island Regiment and its stand during the battle. But recognition did not always mean reward. Unlike many white veterans, black soldiers and American Indians often did not receive fair compensation for their service. Promised pensions were delayed or denied. Land grants were rarely honored, and for some, freedom itself was contested or taken away. Many Americans at the time recognized the bitter irony. Here were men who fought under banners declaring liberty and independence, yet returned to a society unwilling to grant them either. Still, their service mattered. The courage of Black Minutemen in Massachusetts and the sacrifice of the 1st Rhode Island Regiment forced Americans to confront their own ideals. These men challenged the nation to live up to its words. Their fight did not end in 1783. It continued in every generation that followed, from the Civil War to World War II to the Civil Rights Movement and beyond. The story of the American Revolution is not complete without the story of the Black men who stood up when freedom was still an unfulfilled promise. They fought, they held the line, and they proved from the very beginning that the right to fight belongs to everyone. I'm Shazel Muhammad, and this has been your Right to Fight Military Moment.